just hit this, and then we're good to go. So I just want to say thanks again for coming on and having a chat, because it is useful. It's useful just to get ideas out, and
100%. Yeah, I love it. It's just venting ideas, and sometimes we can create some great things, and it's always good to have them recorded so that if we do, like what did I say there, and then
yeah, that's something I learned from jamming. I'm sure you've done the same with bands. You just stick a recording on, and then if something magical happens, then you've got it. So
everything is recorded that I do. Everything. When I lived in London, I first joined the band I'm still in now. One of the things that we did was we would do it once, at least once a week, sometimes more. We would have this little device called a jam hub. I don't even know, we haven't used it in years, but it would be, the idea is it's a little box, and you will plug in your instruments and get a headphone. You each have a headphone mix, an electric drum kit in a small little flattened Broccoli. And then we used to just go there, and we'd rehearse for gigs, but at the same time, in between the rehearsing the songs and stuff, we'd just jam. And we created albums, like, worth of stuff. It was so fun. And we were lucky that the singer was very incredible at, like, literally writing on the spot. So he'd obviously be writing lyrics and stuff, over the week, but he would just be able to kind of put those into songs straight away. And, like, sometimes we would just be playing, it all would be recorded. And then we just, like, finish playing, and it would just be a completed song, which, like, no one even thought about it. It just came out with lyrics, melodies. Like, there was a couple of occasions where, like, when we took it to the professional recording studio, it's like, this doesn't need changing. This is just great. This is magic. Always recorded.
Yeah, it's something I'm really interested in recently is improvisation, and that kind of magic that you can kind of get from not planning something too much and just letting things go in their own way. It's not always magic, but sometimes it works.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't want to keep you too long, but I just had, since our last conversation, I had a bit of time to think about, things that maybe we missed, or things that I'm interested in, and, things that would be fun to chat about. So what I'm doing at the minute is getting my proposal together for my thesis, and trying to figure out what angle to take on it. And at the moment, it doesn't matter too much because it can change in the future. But as I told you before, I'm thinking of going with a kind of how an artist can get into the NFT space, and how the NFT space is a good thing for artists, and just investigating more about what it is for an artist to be selling stuff online. And I know you've got a lot of experience in that, more than me. So I'm just going to say a few things that I've been thinking about that I'm not sure about. And, if you know about it, great. If not, we can move on. So
I wouldn't even say I'm an expert. I've only, I feel like there's people who say they're experts are just, like, things change so quickly in the space. So who knows? I mean, I'm only in it 9 months myself. And I would happily ask any questions. And I think I have loads of ideas where I think, I can tell you how it's been good for me, and how I can tell you I think it's going to be good for artists. But yeah, ask away, and then we can chat.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good. So my thing at the minute is that I just did it the free way, right, on Polygon. So because this is at the moment just a pure experiment for me. And so I've got into Polygon, but the more time I've spent on Twitter and chatting to people, the more I see, I know you're mostly based on Ethereum, on OpenSea, but I see a lot of people on Tezos and, other blockchains and Solana and things. So what's your take on the different blockchains, and why have you kind of stuck with OpenSea and Ethereum?
So for me, I mean, when I started looking at it and I was just experimenting, and I got loads of things wrong at the beginning, and I was just putting some of this in different price points and different blockchains and seeing what worked, seeing what didn't, and I just think that's what I was doing. I was experimenting. Mm-hmm. So for me, I looked a bit into the environmental side of things. Obviously, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. Mm-hmm. But it's clear that Ethereum produces, at least the mining produces, a lot of electricity, and it's not great for the environment. Whether that's a direct impact on NFTs or, the research I've tried to do, I get varied results from different sources. So the reason I looked into Polygon is that's mainly the reason. That's reason one was that I think without gas fees, it's better for the environment. The second reason is, gas fees can be incredibly high. And if you're selling pieces of art for $100, let's say, for someone to spend $150 on gas to buy that $100 piece, it's like, no one would ever do that. I would never buy something from Amazon, let's say, for £100 if it was $150 shipping, let's say. Well, maybe there'll be some special things, but you get the idea. Yeah. So that's why I like the idea of Polygon, no gas fees, and better for the environment. Now, the issues I find is that because there's no gas fees and because you can kind of just do it, that's where all the counterfeit, fake, and knocked off and just stolen NFTs are. Yeah. If I look into a project and there is, there's amazing artwork, and then I find usually if there's a big project, there's always a fake project on in Polygon. Mm-hmm. It's just like how people do it. So new people come into the space. That's how they can get scammed. They're like, oh, this is cheap. This looks good. Great, I'll buy it. And really, they're not buying it from the artist. So that's one of the downsides, I think, Polygon is. So, for example, I found this artist recently. I loved their work. I was going to buy some straight away, right? I just I was researching how to find their work. Mm-hmm. I clicked on their collection, which was in their Twitter feed, and it was all in Polygon, really cheap. Like, I'm talking like $30 to $40 per piece. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it was a one of one as well. Like, this was really cheap art. And I just thought, this must be fake. Mm-hmm. My instant reaction was, this can't be this cheap. It's too good to be this cheap. And I spent a long time researching them and seeing if they were fake or not. Now, I did that because I wanted to buy from them, but most people aren't going to do that. I find personally, not maybe lazy isn't the right word, but some collectors can be lazy. Like, if your work isn't easy to find, or it's not just everything out in the open, people aren't going to stick around. Like, if I have to scroll through links to find your work, that, like, make it easy for me. Yeah. So in that sense, if I feel like if your work is all on Polygon and I have to spend a lot of time researching to find out if it's fake or not, that might put a lot of people off. Yeah. So I think that's one of the downsides. And I guess that's not Polygon's fault. That is just people abusing Polygon. Yeah. So that's really that kind of why I think of that. Mm-hmm. I personally have tried using Polygon. I have a main collection on ETH, and that's where I started. And then I experimented with Polygon and put everything up at 10, I think 20 pieces on there. It was almost like a secret collection. I didn't advertise it completely. I did put some posts out, but I found that it just didn't get the views. Maybe this was my marketing, but it didn't get any sales, like absolutely none. Whereas the other ones had 100 plus sales. And I didn't know, maybe that's my part in marketing. Maybe it's a Polygon thing. Mm-hmm. I've heard from a little bit of research, some people don't trust Polygon because of there's, I don't know what exactly it was, maybe security issues or something a little more technical, which I don't know the answer to, but that was why some of the bigger collectors don't like it. Mm-hmm. So that's another aspect of it, but that's something I don't know a lot about. So those are a few little issues I have with Polygon. What I actually use Polygon now is actually things like airdrops and giveaways. Mm-hmm. Because I want to, with my 100 collectors, I'm literally doing a giveaway today, actually. Not giveaway, an airdrop. Where I have something like 85 collectors, and I'm giving every one of them a piece. And I'm making an addition piece. So if I looked into the cost of like making that an Ethereum and sending to everyone, and it's like $10,000 in ETH.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of money for someone who doesn't make, millions of pounds.
Yeah.
So it's just not feasible for me to do that. So Polygon really is the only way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one reason why Polygon is essential and a must. There are collections that have done very well on Polygon, but who knows how they would have done on Ethereum? They could be in a much different position.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my Polygon take. I'm sure I could chat loads about it, but those are a few things. With the other blockchains, again, that's something I need to do more research into, like Tezos and Solana and a few others that like I've seen are doing really well. For me, there's just so much to think about and do. I wanted to focus my efforts on something I knew was working, but I'm not saying that I'm not going to do other things in the future. I guess I don't have the time. I'm just spending so much time doing what I'm doing at the moment. I would need generally double me to then do everything there. But it's something I will do the research in, and I find it interesting. And I find as these other platforms grow, a lot of people are making a lot of money and their art's going well. So I know, and I ask collectors and creators as well, just the different what works for them. I think other things can work differently for other people. It depends what time you have to put into the community as well. Mm-hmm. If you have time to put, you only have so much time. So if you're going to put all your time into something, I personally have put most of my time into two platforms, which is OpenSea and Foundation. So I interact with people who are on OpenSea and collect on OpenSea, and the same for Foundation. I just don't have time to then research all this other platforms and then go into their communities, as well as all the other communities I'm trying to be a part of, like the actual people, what communities I've collected from, the NFT collections. You only have so much time to be in certain communities. So that's really why I haven't put a lot of time and effort into Tezos, but a few of the greatest people I chat to, that's their favorite platform and blockchain.
Yeah. From what I see, it seems to me that I'm still deciding if I where I want to be and what community I want to be part of, and I know it's going to take time to get into those communities. So rather than spending all my time on Polygon, I'm kind of thinking, should I spend more time researching the communities first before I put all my eggs in one basket, kind of thing. And I do see a lot of artists that I like, and I like what they're making on Tezos. I don't even know how to. Is Tezos?
I say Tezos, but I don't know. That could be.
Anyway, so yeah, I've seen a lot of people I like on there.
I saw someone say, I've always said non-fungible token. I saw someone say fungible. So I could have been saying it wrong the whole time. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I thought it was fungible. Anyway, yeah. So I've been thinking, should I take everything off Polygon and start again on Tezos? But I'm not going to rush into anything because at the moment it is an experiment for me. But I just wanted to get your take on the different, the different currencies, because other things I've read is that Ethereum is the original, and it's the one that actually still holds value in terms of the future. Although Tezos is getting better, but at the moment it seems like Ethereum is, if you can afford those gas fees and you don't mind the gas fees, it seems like it's got the most audience. It's got the most audience for sure.
Polygon is Ethereum.
Yeah.
In terms of its wrapped Ethereum.
Yeah.
So I guess that means it will always hold the same value as Ethereum.
Yeah.
I think I'm right there. So yeah, you're right. And again, but who knows? I mean, it's still crazy early days. There could be new ones that we've never heard about. It seems like tokens and things that are popping up all over the place. So who knows what's going to be a front runner? I think you're right. I think Ethereum is kind of like the Apple and Google or blockchain. It's like, it doesn't seem like that's going to be going anywhere. So in terms of that, I think it's very safe. I think you could be right. But I think in terms of community, I would go where you like the artists. If you're finding so much art that you love on Tezos and you're chatting with those artists and you're in that community, I'd say go for it, because that's where you can put your time into. And that's when you're going to be making friends with. I found a lot of sales that I've made, some are collectors, but some are to artists. A lot of them are to artists. Because once artists start selling, they then a lot of the time use those to buy from other artists, which is what I've done. And a lot of the time you buy from people that you know. That's just how life and work. You know, you hire your friends to do this, and you know that's what it is. Yeah. So like connections is very, very important in the NFT space. So yeah, I would say wherever you like work, put it there, and you know it could be an amazing move. Again, if it doesn't work, it's kind of like, I suppose the only thing is, I personally believe that you should always, once something has sold in a collection, that's kind of a commitment solidified.
Yeah.
So as long as there's been no sales, you can always start again. Because once you have some sales, then you're kind of like, if you can't really, let's say you do everything in Polygon and a collector comes around and spends, you know, let's say they spend like 1 ETH, a whole 1 ETH, and buying your things, and then after 6 months it's not really working in Polygon. You can't really just take all those pieces away, because that one collector is now, he's just lost one, he or she's lost 1 ETH. So once you've made sales in a collection, that's commitment to that for, let's be honest, years.
Yeah, years for sure. I totally agree with that, and you know, I think these are just thoughts going through my head at the minute. But I'm going to stick with Polygon, I'm pretty sure, for this project that I'm doing at the minute, and just see how it goes. And you know, in the future, I might experiment with other things. So yeah. So then that kind of leads me to
just a quick one on that point. Yeah. I kind of see it sometimes as I don't always. What I kind of do isn't always, if something isn't working, sometimes I'll delete it and start again. If you do it on ETH, that's very costly. You have to spend a lot of money. Yeah. Actually, I don't know if I figured out a trick or if I've something, but you can. I've minted something and listed it, okay? And if you list it, then to delist it, it costs gas. But to delete it, it doesn't cost gas.
Okay.
I don't know if that's something I don't really see many people talking about that. But yeah, so I've deleted pieces that obviously they haven't sold, and I've deleted them rather than delisting them.
And saves you money. Well, that's a good trick. If people don't know about it, then it's worth thinking about.
There's exports and everything. So I wonder if, they haven't really been delisted. They're on a blockchain, and then someone buys it secretly without having out. So I don't know what that impact that's going to be in the future.
Yeah.
But so far, that's what I've been doing. So, sorry, to the point, what I'm making is, I sometimes see things rather than, let's say if I'm on the Polygon thing, sometimes maybe I would delete it and put it somewhere else. Sometimes I just leave it there, and that's that collection there. And maybe it doesn't sell, but I kind of then move on to the next concept or idea. And my kind of view on that is that if one of my projects works, then that brings me, more followers and more scope, and people start liking my work, then they have the opportunity to then look back at those past pieces, and they become more valuable in a sense, because they become your genesis pieces or your thing. So yes, they might not be successful straight away, but in the future, people will look back. There's so many times, for example, I quit a lot of this music in my head. If you release a first album and it's not great, okay, you've done your best. Next album, okay, it's not great. I know some artists who are on their 8th album. Well, I don't know them personally, but they're on their 8th album and it blows up. And now everyone, all their new fans that just found them, go and love albums from 1 to 8, because it's just...
No, it's their journey. It's their journey, right? Yeah. It's where they came from. So, yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with you. So, yeah, while you were talking about losing artwork after deleting it, where it actually goes and everything. That's a whole other topic of, that I don't know enough about, and I think that's something that needs to be researched more, is how those things work, which I'm keen to.
I know what you're kind of getting at, and it's something I need to research myself. I've done little bits, but then I'll never feel comfortable talking about them, because I can kind of research it and understand it and make a little note, but I'm not an expert in the blockchain by any means. I can kind of understand how some things work, but to be able to speak publicly about it, probably not. So everything I say now could be completely wrong. So the idea is, some people have asked me, so what happens, if OpenSea just goes away? And does that mean all your artwork's gone? Does that mean, what happens? It's a good question. I know that they are buying the code. They aren't buying, the image isn't stored on the code itself. I don't know.
No, it's just the number. From what I understand, it's just the number or the name, and then it's linked to your artwork. So that number is the valuable thing.
So if OpenSea goes away, does that mean everybody loses their money or their artwork?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the banks going bust, right? So what is money and what is this crypto? It's all imaginary, really, but it's us putting our faith that this is a system that is to be built around art, and
I think that's where some of, I've been told why some of the bigger collectors go in and check your artwork and see what contract you're on. And if you have a custom contract, they are more likely, what I heard, they're more likely to buy it. There's something I'm looking into now, only now. I was chatting to someone from NFT Tips one time, and they are a great resource. And I put my artwork on there, and they kind of went through my profile and said what improve. It's really good. It's a really good thing that they do.
Okay.
I can't see Alex. He was very good. It was a clubhouse room, but he was actually doing it live on YouTube, which was really interesting. Where he would, go into your OpenSea project, and everyone could tune in and see live, and he would go through and say, you need to change your website, or you need to add stuff to your Twitter. It was really useful. And one of the things he said which I found interesting, was he looked into my contract and said, oh, so you're still doing it on OpenSea's contract. And I said, yeah, I don't really know about that. He goes, well, he found that some of the collectors, the big collectors, that's what they look at, because if OpenSea went away, you've still got your custom contract. You're in control. So that was an interesting thing. Again, that might not be the case for everyone, but that's really an interesting thing that they said. And when I asked them and other friends, they said there's a lot of, at the time when we were doing this, it cost quite. If you don't know what you're doing, it can cost quite a bit of money to hire someone to build you this custom contract. And it's something that I didn't have the time to research how to do, and it's something that I'm not expert in. So it would be the case of me hiring someone. They thought with my project, because it hadn't, gone to millions, it would have been diminishing returns. It would have been a risk. It might have cost £3,000, let's say, and that's going to be a risk if there's no return from it. So that at the time I was like, well, maybe I'll just can go back. I think now there's X, Y, Z manifold or something like that. I think it's not free, but it's an extremely affordable contract service, and I see a lot of people talking about it.
Okay, so that's something I didn't know about either, contracts, and it is something that I've been thinking about in kind of a different way, which would be that I've kind of seen these galleries or NFT promotion. It's kind of like in the music industry, the record labels, and is that maybe going to be something that happens in the future whenever the big guns come into the NFT space? Is that for people who don't understand, most artists, most musicians don't get the business side of it. Will there be these companies coming in that kind of take over? Maybe, because part of the NFT world that I like is that artists can come and just sell their art, and it is just artist to customer with no kind of middle. Is there potential that this is going to change in the future and it's going to be taken over and it's going to be the same?
I wouldn't, at a guess, I think it's already too far in to be taken over.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why people like this space, is because everything you said, it's art, there's no middleman. It's artist to collector.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're in a time where it's basically like people are wanting to collect. It's like, if you are an artist or a musician and you're putting, for example, if I put a print out of my art and I went to the random gallery and I said, look, I'm charging £100 for this print, most people will be like, who are you? Why are you charging £100 a print? It would sell, I'd get extremely, or not even a print, one of one. Right? Let's say it's an original piece of artwork, like, okay. And, or let's say £2,000. £2,000 is a bit more like, that's sold for 0.5 Ethereum. But if I went into thing, they might go, who are you? Why do you think you can charge as much for this piece of art? But in this space, people are actively looking to spend that amount of money because it's just a crazy time and crazy, amazing time.
Yeah.
Creative. So back to your question of, are the big guns going to come in? I think they are. I think there are already people trying to do that. You're right. I think there's different ways that they could do it. Anyone who is in the space right now, if someone is saying to you, I'll do this for you for a percentage, you have to look and see what they're really providing.
Mm-hmm.
Because that seems good. People are wanting out of that. Absolutely wanting out of that. So yes, let's say that's probably what's going to happen. You can see the big record labels doing 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But all they're really doing now is marketing for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're hiring them as a marketer because the distribution is taken care of.
Yeah.
In terms of you just mint it, you can mint 10,000 copies of your album, and that's the distribution. This is where they go. So all they're really doing is marketing.
Mm-hmm.
If you've created the music yourself and recorded yourself and produced yourself, which is easier than ever now, and then now the distribution session, all you really need to do is market it correctly, and then it's sold. So
that's what's great about it. That's why I got involved, because I think it's such a great thing for artists and musicians to be part of this. I'm just trying to see where it might go in the future.
My thoughts of where it might go is this, and this was kind of, I know Gary Vee has talked a lot about this. So a lot of the things I'm saying are aspects of what you mentioned first. But this is why I think it's going to be so big for the music industry. At the moment, like I'm the level, at the moment, I've been at a level where in the music industry where we have been on the cusp of making it, or we've done big enough things where it's like I've had friends and family go, well, you're going to be rich, like type thing. It's going to it hasn't gone that way, not because of we haven't tried, but that's just life. COVID and things happened, and
it's all about luck. It's all about luck, I think.
It's hard work and luck, 100%.
Yeah.
But we've had our lucky times, and we've had best experiences, and it's all been amazing. It's still going to be. Anyway, so we've been at a cusp where, at a level where you can sell out, let's say, small to medium venue. Okay, like you could sell out, especially back home, 500 tickets, up to 1,000 tickets. That's small to medium, that's pretty good. When you get to that level, you're kind of then you're interested. Music record labels are interested. If you're already selling out, and you've got good music, and you're getting fan base, and you're getting the numbers. That's when they're interested in you, really. So with those people, kind of the next step is go independently and raise funds and do everything yourself. Or if you're just a normal band like we were without big funds or investments behind us, you kind of look for that record label deal where they can give you X amount of money, they can market you, they can help with distribution, and they can do everything that helps. But now, because CD sales aren't what they were, Spotify doesn't really pay you very much, or pays you virtually nothing unless you're a big artist. It's very hard to recoup those funds as a record label. What they do is they take a 360 deal where they would take all of your merch, well, not all of it, they'll take a huge percentage of your merch or a percentage of your ticket gate. They'll take, if you want to be a ballerina, they'll take a percentage of that. Like anything that you do, anything you do. So that's one thing that people just aren't happy with in terms of record labels doing that. So alternatively, what I think could happen is this. You're a medium-sized artist, so you've got a bit of a following. It's hard to do this without a bit of a following, but people are already loving your music. Maybe that they'll jump on board. When the NFTs become a bit more mainstream, it's not as scary for people to jump on board. It's just naturally that people can do it. Maybe this will happen. You've got an album coming out. You've got your debut album coming out, let's say, right? And you've got a few thousand fans, like genuine fans. So not just 1,000 followers. You've got like a few thousand genuine fans that like your music, would consider coming to watch you go to a concert. It takes a long time to get that, but these are like your fans.
Mm-hmm.
What you do is you could put out your album as an NFT. See, Tory Lanez did this, and I'm sure so many other people do this. But you put your album out as an NFT, and you charge, let's say, this is one route you could go. You charge £100 for this. Okay, albums now for a small artist could go, let's say, £10. So this is 10 times the value of a normal album. £100. And you put 1,000 copies of that NFT. Okay, if you got 3,000 fans, there's 1,000 copies. That's it's kind of that. What you do with this album is say anyone who buys this album for £100 will get the 1,000 people will share 35% of the royalties from this album. Everything to do with this album. Okay. So physical sales, you could say even touring, whatever you want to do in the contract, but they get royalties, they get paid. That would mean you have 1,000 people. If let's say it sells out, amazing. You just say that's 1,000 times 100 is 100,000. So you just made 100 grand.
Yeah,
that could be something that a record label would give you in advance. That could be their advance that they would give you anyway. You've just made 100 grand from selling your album, right? This could even work as a crowdfunding sort of situation.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, this £100,000, you can then go to your fans. Okay, there's 1,000 people that bought this. Not only are you getting, the great thing about NFTs is that the roadmaps and the things that can be given down the line that you don't even know about. Like you could buy an NFT, and then 10 years later, the NFT you bought, because anyone who bought this NFT 10 years gets 100 grand. You don't know the value of that NFT until actually way in the system. Mm-hmm. So back to this. So you have then 1,000 fans. Okay. You've invested £100 into you, and you've got £100,000 to then spend on any production or anything that happens, like physical distribution. It can go on your tour. You could say those 1,000 people get in for free at any venue. It can go on merch. You can give out merch to these 1,000 people. And you could still walk away with profit. And then, if the album is successful, which it kind of already is successful by then, because you've made that money, and you've then got 1,000 people who are then going to be your biggest street team. They're going to be shouting about you so much. You've seen the community in the NFT community. You've seen people buying into a project and then going and tell literally everyone, because they know if they tell everyone and more people come and buy their thing, the value of their NFT is going to go up in value. So they become your market.
Yeah.
So if you have that in your music, when you have 1,000 people genuinely going out there who's passionate about your music and just shouting about your music to everyone, that is your best marketing team ever.
Yeah.
That is amazing. You cannot get better than that.
Mm-hmm.
That automatically is going to bring more people to listen to music, and it's going to feed. And the best thing about it is you then have 65% of your royalties still intact, rather than who knows how much you might have given away to the record label. But the even better part is 35% of them goes to your biggest fans, and essentially they could all make money from you. Mm-hmm. So that £100 initial investment could be recouped either by gaining access to certain perks, or it could be sold mm-hmm. for profit.
Yeah.
Like, it's just that kind of idea could be amazing if it worked mainstream. That's what I think could happen.
That's amazing. No, listen to that. It just sounds wholesome. It sounds like a proper community building way to sell art on music, and it sounds great. It sounds great in theory. It does.
It sounds great. I mean, I don't know. I would like to see a simulation of it happening. I'm working as a musician, and I have so much bands that I love.
Mm-hmm.
But there are bands that I will buy, even to this day, that I have all their music on Spotify. I will buy every album that they release because I love it.
Yeah.
And I will always buy. And particularly the ones that I buy from are the ones who offer us just a little bit more extra, as in they might sign it for you if you buy it from their website.
Mm-hmm.
They might just give you that little bit extra and make you feel a little bit special for buying it in physical.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what NFTs are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
They are. It's proof that you bought that album. They don't have to go through and scroll through records that you bought that album. You just have an instant list that they go, oh yeah, you bought all of our albums throughout it. Like, let's think big long term. Right? Let's say a band does the strategy I just mentioned. And then, they're a new band, right? But then let's say that new band, they're starting off right now, and then they become the next Red Hot Chili
Peppers. Yeah.
Mega stars. And they are, they're like, Led Zeppelin style, the biggest bands in the world that are literally timeless. They're immortal. They're never going to go anywhere. But everyone starts off somewhere. So everyone loves that kind of, I went to go see Chili Peppers in LA, in a room when there was 200 people. Everyone loves that story. They could have that story, and they have proof of that story.
Yeah.
This NFT out. I bought this when this band came out.
Mm-hmm.
This is, let's say in 50 years' time, when we're old people, right? And we're old, and who knows what this crazy world's going to be like then. But it's going to be, check out this. I got an original Red Hot Chili Peppers NFT at this point, or I got an original band that's not even been out yet.
Yeah.
And these fans then could be like, on their 30th anniversary, could say anyone who got our Genesis collection 30 years ago gets to meet the band, or they have a room like with the Chili Peppers where they could redo that original gig. If there's a gig with 200 people, in 50 years' time, they could give out those 200 people tickets to a private gig. I don't know, it's literally limitless.
That's amazing.
Really
yeah, that is really interesting, and I've never actually thought about it in that much detail. And I've seen these. No, but it's great, man. It's making me understand why it's of value and these roadmaps and things, because to be honest, it's fine that people like collecting whatever they like collecting, but I've never really been interested in the collections, like the Pokemon card kind of collections. That's cool. I get it. But I'm into art and music, and that's what I like. And the way that you're describing it sounds like it could really work into. It's something that I would buy into. Is the idea that there's an artist that I like. I'm not only giving them my money, but I'm also becoming a part of their journey, and it makes a lot of sense. It does. So if that can happen, it will be. And it is something that needs to change is the music industry, because I don't think it's fair on musicians and also artists. Like, I think the NFT space has given a space for artists that they didn't have before. So it's cutting out the galleries, it's cutting out the record labels. It's hopefully giving people a chance that wouldn't otherwise have a chance?
I would love it to do this, and like just analysing how the music industry works now. You can see how you could then, it'd be amazing to have a magic wand where you could just go, this is how it works now. Let's put everything onto the blockchain and see every musician is instantly on the blockchain and see how it works. For example, like songwriters are, really underappreciated. It used to be back in the day, if you wrote a hit song for one of the biggest bands, I went to Nashville, for example. I was with my fiance. She's like a pop country artist, and we did some recording out there. And I was just chatting with some of the musicians, the session musicians, who was in that session that day. So lovely. Oh, you couldn't imagine how good they were for even just the price that they were charging. They were like they worked with the biggest and the best. I was just chatting to the drummer. He's so lovely, and I was like, so how's everything going? Like songwriting, and how's it industry? And he was just like saying how he's just. This was a few years ago. He was just saying how he's just fed up. He was, I'd say, when I say old, for a session player, he's probably in his 60s. He's just a veteran. He was just saying, like, all the people that you've worked with, when he did it 30, 40 years ago, the people that have all the money, he knows, were the songwriters, and they would write a song for Johnny Cash, Johnny Parton, let's say. And that's it. They're made for life because they get the royalties from that song forever. And then things changed over the years. And now, like he was saying, one of his close friends recently wrote a song for, I can't remember who it was, very big, very, very big artist at the time. And let's just give an example. It wasn't this, let's just say Taylor Swift. And they wrote that song, and yes, they got good money, but not retiring money. Like, can't remember how much he said, but it was like, let's say 20 grand compared to 30 years ago that it would have been, millions almost, like that you'd get. So like trying to say that's the music industry's gone. And I don't get me wrong, I buy and I love Spotify because I'm lazy and I love having all the artists I love right there, and that's it. I still separately go and choose to support the ones I love, but I feel like that's a choice. It would almost be better if you didn't have that choice. You just had to support the artist. I remember when I was a kid having to go and buy CDs and having to save up my pocket money to buy CDs. And I would do that and spend whatever it was to buy an album. And then you would listen to that album from back to front multiple times. It was a different kind of time. You would just, so I feel like now it's kind of a choice to support the artist rather than what it is.
Oh no, it's too easy now to just get music on the cheap, get things, without paying even. You don't even have to pay for stuff now, and I'm the same. Like when I was, teenager, university age, I was spending all my money on music. I was just going to the record shop, looking through the CDs. Part of the fun was finding stuff that I didn't know. And that's coming back with the NFT thing as well, is, this idea that you're going looking for something, and I can see the positive side of it that way. It's an interesting thought about how it could benefit us as musicians and artists, and I really like your ideas on it. It's great. Thanks, man. That's cool. So I was thinking about some other stuff as well.
I can talk about the music stuff for ages, so we'll have to have another.
I know, for sure, man, for sure. I wanna get into this again with you because I feel like it's fun talking to you, but it's also like educating me and giving me ideas, and as I go into studying this, I'm gonna get more knowledge about this, I'm sure, and I would also like to bounce ideas off you in the future as well, because
that's it. I'm even having ideas like now. Like I'm just, when I had to think about it then, I was like, how does music get out there now? And it used to be, and still kind of is, dictated by radio. Like if you get on, here in the UK, if you get on BBC Radio 1, people are just going to listen to that. There's still a huge amount of people who listen to radio in their car, and that's how they get their music. And that's what the charts are. Those charts are up for a reason. How can you bring that into the NFT space? NFT radio, is that a thing? How could you?
It could be. Why not? Why not? NFT DJs. All these stations that you could have. Like personally, I'm into like not the popular side of things, and for me to try and find this stuff now at the moment is quite difficult. Like I've got to scroll through lots of things that I'm not so interested in to get to the stuff that I want to see, and if there was a radio station or
that's it. Or maybe the radio station could be the collection, or they could be the project. Is that they are the people who buy, I don't know, let's say a radio station or record label or collection, buy music NFTs to play them on their radio station. That means that's the why you would buy them. So you have people create playlists all the time.
Yeah.
Right. I teach young kids, and I constantly see them come in and be like, check out my playlist. And it's like, great, I see what music. People love having a little collection of a list of music what they like. They like showing that.
Yeah.
They like creating that. I like creating that. Plenty of times you go, what music are you into? And I've just shared them a link of a little playlist I made.
Yeah.
It's easy. Having that as an NFT format where you could buy, I don't know, this is just another idea, but you could buy, let's say if these music NFTs aren't too expensive, let's say they're just the same price as iTunes, right? No gas, and they're just $1 or £1 or whatever, buy a song. You could go through and buy all your favorite tracks, for £1 or $1. And then people could, I don't know, if you were a DJ, people could pay to listen to you play these songs. Maybe they could subscribe or pay an NFT, which gives them access to your radio station, which you then play all the NFTs that you've purchased. I don't know, it's just ideas, but it's literally NFT DJs.
Yeah, and like for Spotify playlists, if you make a playlist and somebody listens to your playlist, you don't get anything, economically from that. You get the joy of sharing your music, but what you're saying is that if you go to the bother of building a good collection that people like,
that you've also paid for.
It's your collection, then surely in the spirit of sharing, you would hope that somehow we would get something back for that.
And that's also how does like a DJ work now? They would have to, a very famous DJ, if they were going to Ibiza or whatever and playing other people's music, they would have to have the rights to that music, right? Is that how that works? Or they would at least, because I know how it works over here is PRS.
Yeah.
I mean, again, who knows how that really works. But the idea is that a venue that plays music either has a device that captures what music is played, or people that just are like mystery shoppers and come in, and they write down and record the music that has been played that evening, give the information back to PRS. They get all the data from around the country, and then they distribute it, evenly. Or, if Rihanna is getting paid 10 times more than Adele, then she gets more money. So yeah, that's kind of, I think, how it works. But if you had a DJ, a famous DJ, and then buying famous artists' NFTs, music NFTs, to be able to play them, that could be how it works. And when you could set it up so when they play it, they instantly get royalties, or, you could have, I don't know. I'm just thinking more things. Like if there's a room of 1,000 people and it's playing this music is generated X amount, then the royalties could then all be split by a smart contract and sent to the artist automatically. It would just be done there and then.
Yeah, well, it definitely makes it easier to do this digitally than, like you say, when you go into a concert venue or a club in Ibiza or whatever. How do they actually keep track of who is playing, whose music? So I think with the metaverse and the digital world, there's definitely potential for keeping track of this and getting the money back to where it belongs. And it's not really, it's not up to us to figure out how that works, but
I feel like it is.
Well,
I'm on a raw bar.
It's amazing to talk about it, and even just sharing ideas, and this is where it comes from, right? And so, what I've been thinking,
imagine this scenario. Imagine if Spotify, right, let's just say every artist on Spotify or Apple Music or every artist that's in digital, rather than being digitally, let's say every artist, every song is an NFT, right? And everything isn't free. Let's just put a price point of $1 for everything. Every music single you put out, every song is $1. You could basically have people who buy catalogs of music, and they then, if a venue wants to play that type of music or someone's playlist, they buy that person's playlist, let's say, and then they play that music, and then all the data around the whole world of who's getting played where is all on the smart chain, and it can instantly, or hopefully maybe, just be distributed fairly to the whole world of musicians and artists and songwriters that are involved. And it would just be like a amazing, fair system that's done digitally.
Yeah. So is that how it works at the minute? Where I doubt it, but it should be. If there's a one of one NFT by a musician, and you buy that, and that is then played on the radio or played on whatever in a club or whatever, do you get anything for that at the moment?
Very good question. So at the moment, I don't think so, because you're only buying. It depends in the what the artist put, but I don't think it would be done smart contractually, because it doesn't have the ecosystem for it. Like, how does the radio being played on the radio? How does that actually get the information of that get to the smart contract? So if you had it in a way where that, and if that's another way that could work, like you could buy, if it was one of ones, that would actually make scarcity. Like, to be able to play this song, you need to own this NFT.
Yeah.
So if you put a Ed Sheeran song out and it's one of one, that's going to be worth millions. Millions, because it's like Wu-Tang Clan. They released one album, and I can't remember what it was, and it was that guy that bought it. Can't remember what. I think he was a bit of a dick, actually. He was like, if this gets put out, I don't know. But I think I read somewhere that he pharmaceutical, he sold maybe it was a HIV drug, and it was worth in terms of cost to make 80 cents. He charged $400 for it or something like that. Anyway, I heard he wasn't a nice guy, but he had loads of money, and he bought the one Wu-Tang Clan album. Now, if that was an NFT, and that was his choice to do what he wanted with that album, he could release it to Spotify, do it, or he could just have it, listen to it in his bedroom on his own, right? And he was the only one that knows. That's essentially what you want the NFT to be as well. You could have, if there's 10,000 copies of the said Sheeran song, and the only people that can play it publicly are people who buy it. If you own that, radio stations around the world are going to be wanting to play that. So they're going to buy it. If that's the only way to get that music, the whole music system does that, then that's it. So you'll find that if that happened, you might say it might turn out a really interesting turn where smaller radio stations can't afford to get education.
That's what I was going to say, is that it sounds beneficial to the artist, who will make a lot of money, which is good, and it sounds beneficial to rich people who will be able to afford these things, but then it kind of creates this gap there where the average music fan can't listen to the songs they like without the chance of it.
Yes, maybe that's how it goes. So you're saying the only people that rich people are the only people that can have it, but also let's say radio stations buy it. That would be a reason for you to go listen to that radio station.
True, yeah. So it could bring back another, golden age of turning the radio on. Yeah,
really interesting. If there's only 10 radio stations in the world that has this new Ed Sheeran song that everyone wants to listen to, then they're going to go to these radio stations and listen to things. That would actually bring value back to these radio stations if they've got exclusive rights to these songs. So that's one way how it would be a great thing. It would drive the scarcity and the value of these music NFTs up. And another thing is that there'll be plenty of music radio stations which obviously can't afford that Ed Sheeran song. So what do? They buy cheaper songs or lesser known music. So you'll find that actually the radio stations that you might listen to will then buy our music.
More variety, right? So it'll be not just be every radio playing the same song, because that's what it is now. A lot of the time you turn on the radio and it's the same songs on most stations. But yeah, with these exclusive rights, it would be nice that there was variety over radio stations for sure. So I think it sounds interesting. It's another interesting angle. There's so many angles and possibilities for this.
Really, I think about it all the time. I really wonder what actually happened. That is implemented as a wide mainstream thing, because it doesn't really work unless it works mainstream. Yeah. Unless that's the way it works, it doesn't work. Because if you won't have exclusivity on that song, if all the other radio stations and Spotify are playing it, it needs to be only within that ecosystem. It'd be crazy. You can imagine then a new era of DJs and radio stations, because they are the people who managed to get in early, got on those pre-sale lists and those green lists and white lists, and they managed to get in those Ed Sheeran songs and Adele songs early, and then you have your catalogue then could be amazing. Imagine if you have all these songs from these big artists and you're the only one that can play them. You'd be like, well, tomorrow I'm doing a little listening party if anyone wants to listen. Get thousands of followers, thousands of music. Could be an interesting situation.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely potential there, and it will be interesting to see where it goes, for sure. It's an interesting time to be doing this, for sure, definitely. So then, let's move on to something else. I know there's more we could talk about there, but I think that part of what I might be interested in looking at as well is the traditional market for art. Let's go back to art again, because music's amazing. I love music and I'm totally into that, but I also am interested in the art side of things. And the traditional market at the minute is kind of the way that it is. How could then that be integrated in with the NFT art market? For example, artists who are already established in the physical world, will they find it difficult? And, have you experience of this yourself, or do you know artists who are very successful in the real world or the physical world, but when they come into the digital world, they haven't got the same following, they have to start again? Yeah.
Really interesting. I'm not someone who has had my music career is what I've focused on for the last 10 years. I have done art I've done art, I did it at college, but I've never been a traditional art seller. I've never put my work in galleries. My success has only been as an NFT artist. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, maybe people are like, well, you couldn't make it in the real world. Well, I've never tried, but that's whatever. That's a conversation. So I don't have huge experience there. But what I do know is, for example, there is interest from a lot of artists seeing this and wanting to get involved, because I find that there are plenty of artists. I live in Jersey, tiny little island, and I was asked to be part of Jersey's first NFT. And I found that everyone else there were all the artists that I'd loved and heard of. I was the only NFT artist. These were all people who have established art careers and have been all very successful, way more successful than me. but they haven't got into the NFT world. So there's going to be a big onboarding process. So I almost, in this exhibition coming up, am essentially the leader, but only because it's an NFT.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are, I'm sure my research needs to be doing. One that comes to mind, not in this exhibition, but as a famous UK artist, Damien Hirst has been doing very interesting stuff. I think his concept was something along the lines of, you can buy his work as an NFT, and you've got 3 months to decide. If you keep it as an NFT, you will physically burn the physical piece.
Mm-hmm.
And if you burn the NFT, he will send you the physical piece.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Really interesting concept. What do you want? What's more valuable?
Mm-hmm.
Copies or the NFT?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the answer to what's happened, but I feel like last time I did have a little check, I think people were actually keeping the NFTs.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Not because I think it's the two markets are separate, but we need to find a way to, because there's nothing like physical art.
For
and
sure.
That's again my opinion and everyone's opinion. But all the people that I've chatted to who love art, real art lovers, so many of them love seeing a piece of artwork there in the physical, not the metaphor, in the physical with the texture. They own it, they want to touch it. That's what some people love.
Mm-hmm.
So that I don't think will ever go away.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
In the sense that, almost in the sense that, like, I love listening to music. But watching live music is an experience.
Yeah.
And yes, I don't yet know what watching live music in the metaverse is going to be like. It could be different or crazy, or I'm sure it's going to be an experience. People love experience. But in terms of the art world, yeah, physically touching a painting is one thing. So it's interesting how you would merge those two. I don't think that I think because of that fact that the traditional art world isn't going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
There is going to be that hope, but will it go away through the generations? Maybe it's kind of like something that, anyone, let's be ageist for a second and say, NFTs and the metaverse are probably predominantly a younger generation or people under 50, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say if you put a chart out, I could be completely wrong, but I think it's probably right to say, well, in people I know, they're just, technology is always something that you lose track of as you get older. Like my dad can barely turn on that. Like it's taken me a long time to teach him how to use YouTube. And I don't think I'd even begin to talk about NFTs and crypto wallets and meta wallets. And obviously, speaking very general. So I think those people who just aren't into technology, getting like someone who's never really used a computer before, but is a massive art collector, getting them to join Discord servers and Twitters and buy cryptocurrency in the wallets, it's not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that is always good. That traditional art is always going to be there. But, when we argue, people who are 80 years old, and we've done this for X amount of time, and it's just, if it stays being mainstream, then it's just going to be a common knowledge. And maybe then, like, traditional art is going to be less than NFT art. Who knows? But I'm probably going a bit sidetracked. But the idea was merging the traditional art sense and the NFT art sense. I think the resellability is easier as an NFT, mm-hmm. I guess, because just in logistics, if you buy, an extremely, let's say, £1 million painting, and it's a physical painting, there's a lot of damage that can be done to that. Like to buy it, you need to physically ship that to your house. There needs to be a lot of logistical things. You cannot get it damaged. It needs to be wrapped. It needs to be posted. It needs to be insured.
Mm-hmm.
You need to then display it. There's a lot of logistics, and then to sell it, you need to have a certificate of authenticity. There's a lot of things that go with expensive items. even if it's, let's say not a million, if it's 10,000, again, it's an expensive item, it's an asset, there's things that go with that. To then resell that, you need to almost then either be connected yourself, or you need to, I've never tried personally selling a £25,000 piece of artwork, so I don't know what I'm talking about here. But I imagine that if you want to sell that piece of artwork, you need, how would you go about doing that? You would need to find a buyer, you need to advertise it. Where would you advertise it? You're selling someone else's work. It's just, me as a person, I don't even know where to begin selling £25,000 piece of artwork.
It has to be in a gallery, like, that's kind of, unless you're already a super established artist, you have to go through galleries, and that's kind of how
even
it's done. Yeah.
Even if I bought someone that wasn't an established artist, let's say I bought a famous artist right now, and I bought a piece for £25,000. How do I resell that piece if I want to?
That's a good question. I've never been investing that much in art myself. So I don't know.
I don't know, because I've never had that kind of money.
But at least that's one kind of, more convenient or easily accessible thing about NFTs is that all of the NFTs are sold in the same way, where you click a button, right? And there's different contracts there, like we talked about before, but it definitely seems more, in some ways easier to understand, but in, there's differences. And I think your point with your idea about Damien Hirst, was it Damien Hirst you said? Yeah, I think what he's trying to do is to say one or the other, right? He's trying to say this or that, but it doesn't have to be that way. There might be a way of kind of keeping both going, and I don't want to see real world art disappear, because it is beautiful. That's how I started making art, was just, I don't want to see that disappear. But I think digital art has its place as well. And as we move into a more digitally focused era, I think it will find a bigger place in our lives. So,
one of the things there that I was thinking about doing at one time was, my pieces, I actually reuse my camera. So they only really just as NFT. I have 150 pieces, 150. This room isn't big, actually I'm painting in, that's a lot of room to pick up. So I began, buying 5 to 10 canvases and then reusing them, and then, digitally editing them afterwards, and then that canvas would get used, and then there was no physical painting of it. So when I did sell X amount, I think, I've sold 100 pieces, and I'd say good 15 to 20 people got back to me and said, how can I get the physical piece? I'll pay extra, I'll pay for shipping, I'll show you. Don't get me wrong, they've already bought the NFT. So they were wanting the physical piece as well. And unfortunately, I said, I can't do this, but what I can do is I can send you a high quality file or a signed print, and we'll figure out a way. And I was trying to do that. So that's one thing. But let's say I did have, let's say I painted a collection right now and I kept this. How could you then make that merge the two worlds? There's a few ideas which I had, but again, they come with a little bit of complication. Let's say I have 20 pieces that I've painted, 20 on a canvas, 20 canvas, and I sell out those 20 pieces to 20 different collectors. Now, I could say anyone who buys this NFT gets the physical piece. Then you could figure out a way. Either my way was just get in contact with me and I'll sort it out with you. Then maybe there's a system with the wallet to wallet chatting, which I think is coming out or is already out. Maybe it's a way as when you buy it, it automatically somehow you can put in your address and your shipping details and then just get shipped. Maybe that's a thing in the future. But then I had the logistical problem of what happens when they resell that NFT.
Yeah.
What then happens?
Then they have to be responsible to...
Exactly. Are they responsible then to send it on to the next person? Is that NFT tied with that physical piece? Obviously, logistically, that doesn't make sense, because the person who bought it shouldn't really then be responsible. But
they could be. No, if they wanted to sell it, they could choose to say, look, this is for sale, and I'll give you the physical piece as well. So I think that's an option.
Absolutely.
And that,
Absolutely, you're completely right. They could do that, and then it kind of becomes. But then it kind of comes to the. It could get. I don't know legally how it works. What if it gets damaged? And they've already sold the NFT, and it's like, and there's no PayPal protection. There's no this is decentralized. So how does that work in a court of law? That's where things can get tricky.
Yeah.
So there's a difficult problem with those. If there's 50 resales and that painting has been sold 50 times onwards, there's good chances there's going to be some handling errors in shipping.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's where that can kind of go a bit. I like the, concept. One idea that I had was having a print system where it could be automatically set up, where you buy the NFT and it automatically sends you, if it's a one-of-one print, a one-of-one piece, okay, you buy, this could be done with efficiency, but you buy the one-of-one piece and then you get sent a print. And it's a print 0 of one of one, or let's say 1 of 1. And then when someone else buys that NFT, they automatically get sent then the print as well, but it'll be a 2 of. And then the third person buys. So this kind of is like an automatic system where it's automatically sending out these prints to people who buy the NFTs. It was an idea.
I get the printing thing is easier, but it's a print, right? So and anybody can print it. So I think the physical artwork in itself is more valuable than a print, and the logistics of that would be very difficult. I think it's worth. I've seen other people doing it.
You have to be sign prints then.
Yeah.
So you have to. And it's because sign prints are still valuable.
Yeah, for sure.
So you could maybe do additions, and let's say you did 100. You could say it's a 1 of 1 foil, and the first 100 buyers get sent a signed print, and it's a distribution system. They get it. Or you could do a 0 of 1 NFT. Sorry, a 1 of 100 NFT, and every edition that gets bought also gets a print. But then none of the resales then wouldn't get any. I don't know. I'm just speaking out loud.
Yeah, no, it's stuff that I've thought about. Like what could I include in my NFTs as a kind of hidden thing, and I thought maybe like about a certificate, because with a digital file, you can't really send anything physical, but would it be nice to have a handwritten letter or a certificate that says, thanks for buying my NFT, you are the owner of this NFT, so things like that. I think I love getting letters. I'm kind of old fashioned, my mom still sends me letters. She's in Ireland and I'm out in Taiwan, so she's sending me letters, and I love getting stuff in the post, and there is a physical thing which feels great. And that's the old-fashioned side of me, but I think we do get that digitally. You get an email saying, "Thanks for buying my stuff." It's the same thing, but there is an attachment to the physical world that I think
handwritten letters are really special.
Yeah, and I think something like that could tie the two worlds together, because I know that there will. Like, another thing that you kind of touched on, which I want to ask you about, is the negative viewpoint of people towards NFTs and towards this whole, because it's there, obviously. I mean, I've told a few people I've got into this, and they're like, what are you doing that for? It's, and that's understandable. I mean, I thought the same thing when I first heard it. So it's, how do we change that? How do we make it become more accessible and interesting and, viable for people? And
it's interesting, isn't it? Like, I think, to answer your last question, how do we change it? I just think kindness is always, and like education and kindness is the key. Like, don't I have the type of friends who we love each other dearly, but we can get into debates.
Yeah.
Especially where we don't have debates. Never angry, never violent. They're just a little heated.
Yeah.
But by the next day, it's all forgotten a little bit, but only because we are passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had these NFT debates, and they're good for me because it means I realize there's gaps in my knowledge, especially after I've had a drink. I could be like, I don't actually know how to answer that question, and I've had to go away and research it. And that's actually, I feel like, the majority of my NFT knowledge has come from chatting to a friend of mine and not knowing the answer to it. And I'll go away.
Yeah.
So I think that's firstly the key, is just treat everyone skeptical, and even if they're a hater, kindness and just education as best as you can. And some of the questions are ones that have been asked, like why can't I just screenshot this and print it out? And those kind of questions I feel are easy to answer. There are same everything we've just talked about really is like, why can't I just take a picture of your house? Do I own that house when I take a picture of it? No, kind of I can do a selfie of me and my sister. I'm now dating my sister.
I won't put that in.
But those are the things I would definitely say in the debate.
Yeah, no, man, it's a good point. You gotta I like these debates as well, and it's always good in a debate to take it to the extreme, right? To kind of show the most extreme viewpoint, to show how not stupid, but how far it goes. That's a kind of philosophical argument, right? Is to take it to its extent.
And then some people have asked really genuine questions like, it's just a bubble. It's only what people are willing to pay for it. And my kind of question to that is, isn't that really what the art world is anyway?
Yeah,
really?
It's the same. It's the same thing, and it's just because it's different. I think it's because it's something people aren't used to, and they're not educated about it, like you say. And it's it's the right viewpoint to take, and it's the same. We've had debates our whole lives about various things and different topics, and like I'm a vegetarian, and every time I meet somebody who I say I'm a vegetarian, I always get the same questions. Not always, but there's the usual questions that you get, and it's the same thing. Like I'm not trying to convert anybody. That's my viewpoint. Is like this is what I do, and I have chosen to do this, and this is how I live. So I think that's maybe it's not the most effective way, because we've got these hardcore vegans who are doing all these things, and they're doing their bit, and people are doing their things, and everybody has their own way of doing things. But I think with NFTs, if we go out and start shouting at people like the real art world is dead, don't buy real, get into and this kind of thing, it's not gonna really benefit anybody.
Just to your point, exactly that. I'm the same, and for me, in things like politics, I've always considered myself very left wing in most issues, but I'm open to change, and I'm open to listening to people's viewpoint. I am not an expert in the things that I kind of believe in, in terms of political things. And plenty of times I've chatted to someone with a polar opposite opinion to mine, very right-wing views in certain aspects. We'll have this chat, and I could go, I can see your point there, and I can see your point there. And some of the things that I thought about have changed more center, and even crossed over into that some more. I can see what you can do. But my main thing with it is that discussion is important, because nobody really knows a lot of these things, and everyone has their own opinion. But it's what I've learned is that I can sit in a bar next to a stranger and chat to them, and even if we have polar opposite views in politicals and everything, does not mean that they're not a good person. It doesn't mean they're not anything different. It just means you really don't agree on certain. But I still have found that some of my closest friends believe very different.
Yeah, for sure, and it helps you like you say, it helps you understand your own beliefs more by talking to somebody who's different. If you're always talking to people who have the same beliefs as you, then you just get into this kind of bubble of, oh yeah, that's right, and everybody else is wrong, and that's not good either. So
that's kind of what I feel like the NFT system is at the moment, because the NFT Twitter is just a bubble of, especially my art account. It's literally the only people I follow are people in the NFT world, and I chat to. That's all I chat to. It's just a microcosm of NFT is amazing.
Yeah.
So when I do stumble across I'm like, oh wow, there are people that don't like it. My viewpoint is that there are a few things that I can understand which aren't great, but in general, I'm looking at it from the point of a creator. I would like to hear a lot of arguments how it is bad for creators. One of them could be that people are going in and stealing and selling artists' work that's not theirs.
Yeah.
And that is unfortunate. That is terrible. There are people that are going to traditional artists, literally taking pictures of their work and then selling them as an NFT. And that is awful.
Yeah.
But my kind of argument to that is this NFT blockchain is kind of designed really the opposite to that. It's literally kind of designed to prove that who owns what. So if you're one like taking people's artwork and someone is buying it, it's kind of on their responsibility to check that is by that artist, and that artist is advertising these NFTs, and it's kind of like that. It shouldn't. That's one aspect of it. Another aspect is the environmental issues. Again, this is a whole deep other conversation. For me, I don't know the answer, but I thought what I've done is there's a site called Etherium, and what it does essentially is you put in your collection or your wallet number, and it analyzes it, and it says, okay, you've done this many transactions, and it's had this amount of carbon footprint. If you pay this amount, we will personally offset your carbon footprint so that your collection is carbon neutral, or in fact carbon negative. And they'll do that, and they tell you how they do that. It could be, literally planting trees, or into this initiative or this initiative. So that's how I've done it. So I can, for my peace of mind, I can say at least my collection is carbon neutral. Yeah, it's obviously amazing if everyone was. At the same time, there's so many things that I do in my life that is not good for the environment. I'm a musician, so I travel. I use a plane. I drive a car.
Yeah.
So many things. So I would kind of want to see my impact. Yeah, that's where I kind of stand, and I'm open to changing. And if I find out that I'm doing terrible things to the environment, well, then I have to change it. I have to figure out a way to change it. Yeah,
I mean, I nearly didn't get into NFTs because I was researching it, and this thing came up about one NFT is worth a house for a year's electricity, that kind of thing, and but there are other alternatives there, and I do believe that, having researched it a bit, that it will become more efficient in the future, and as the technology develops, that will go down. So I get that's the biggest objection, I think, from my side, would be the environmental impacts. But I think that is being addressed, and people are aware of it. And there's this, there's a whole clean NFT movement as well, isn't there? There's like the Tezos, and that is apparently clean. I mean, do you know about is Solana clean? Is Algorand, is that clean NFT, or do you know about this kind of stuff? I've done a little bit of research. Again, not a lot. And some of my good friends who are in the NFT space, but I know locally, they're surfers and things, and that's what they love. And Solana is usually. I've had friends who want to buy my artwork, but they would be like, "Sorry, man, like unless you're on Tezos, I'm not buying it."
And that's it. And that kind of leads to other opportunities if you do that. You know, it's actually, I've been wanting to work on a collection that is completely, you know, personally I would love to find ways that I could offset my work personally. So one idea was to create a collection specifically for funding and offsetting all of my other work.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, creating X amount of pieces, put it on a eco-friendly chain.
Mm-hmm.
Sell when those pieces sell, 100% of the profits and everything that comes from selling those pieces is used for environmental offsetting. So basically, making sure not only is all of my work offset, but it's just 100%. So if every collector did that,
mm-hmm.
then the NFT world would become massively carbon negative if the eco one's sold.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It does make sense. And I mean, there's the other argument about, is it even necessary in the first place? Like we're offsetting it, but you know, there's this whole balance argument. But I mean, we're humans, right? We're humans. We want to enjoy certain things in life, and we also need to be conscious of what we're doing. So I think being conscious is the most important thing. As to, you know, if it's doing damage, try not to do so much damage, kind of thing.
And at the same time, some studies or some things I've read are that it's not actually the NFTs that are doing it's the cryptocurrency itself that's doing it, and that's kind of mostly done through Ethereum being traded, you know, like in the kind of like stock market, but cryptocurrency. And NFTs, well, at the time of the study, I think it was a small part of that. But some people equated it to, what was the analogy? It was like that NFTs are more of a, in terms of like pollution, there's going into a car and driving work, and that's a certain amount of personal thing. NFTs are more like catching the bus. And it's going that way anyway. You may as well ride that bus.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, this is happening, so you may as well do it this way. But at the same time, like how much, if I was to sell all my 150 pieces to those 180 collectors, and I had to ship and package and send on airplanes across the world, that I would like to know the difference in actual environmental impact from the transit of those compared to the digital transaction.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm thinking, how can in my mind, which I know this is wrong, it's like sending out 150 like physical letters in the post comparing to 150 emails. That's what it should be in my mind. Like, but I don't think that works.
I'm not sure what the gas fees actually means, right? I understand the concept of it, and I understand it's difficult to, you know, stamp these things and say this is official. Anyway, it is what it is. That's what they're doing at the minute, and so that's another point. But I think it's something that will be brought up in arguments against NFT. So I think I've kind of got through most of the things that I wanted to talk about. I
think the hate for NFTs are very much, it's kind of, I feel like, meme-like. I feel like, especially with like the younger generation, you get like, memes can be very powerful, like so powerful. Like if certain meme goes around, it gets sent around to millions of people. You kind of almost sway people's opinion.
Of course, man. I mean, that's the media. That's what it's doing. No, I mean, it's like
it is the media, but it's also like the media is one thing for sure. Like media is, I feel like Media is like, they have a big business and they have an agenda and whatever you want. So media is media. But the memes are almost like cultivated by culture, by people. So they're created by one guy and sent, and then it gets sent, and then it gets sent, and gets posted here, and gets posted here. And it's almost like guerrilla media.
Yeah.
But that can get picked up very quickly. So if a lot of people are sending bad NFT, anti-NFT memes, it can get like, if it's funny, right, then it can be passed around loads. And even if it's funny, but there's loads of anti-funny memes, then that's probably where you can get that sort of hate.
Yeah, of course it can be damaging, and I think it's interesting how society is influenced. That's another whole debate, because of just as you said, that like memes for today are like the pop music of the 50s and the 40s that changed the generation and changed philosophy and art and philosophy, and all of these things do lead to a change in society. And right now, what is changing society is NFTs. Maybe I'm saying this because I'm just getting into this bubble and I've got it in my head, but it's a big change in terms of what is possible, and maybe it will change it, maybe it won't. I don't want to say that it definitely is because I don't know, but it has potential to change things.
I think I'm the same with you. I think because I'm so involved in it, I feel like this has to change myself. Because I'm in that little world every day. Yeah. Do you think it will? Just because of the power I'm seeing it has. Like, this isn't one or two people this is, it feels like millions. Maybe it's only, I read something, it's only like, it was a very small amount, but it's inside the world. It's very interesting. I think for creatives and people, this is like the first time where you can actually get paid a good amount, and there's a lot of people wanting to buy. It's not real. It's otherworldly. I think that it would be very, very hard to find an artist in the NFT space who is against it and to sell their work.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to come up with a kind of angle for my thesis, and I'm still not 100% sure on it, but I'm definitely going to try and go in with a positive viewpoint of NFTs, and because from what I've, I'm trying to, there's not that much scholarly or, actual work on NFTs yet because it's so new. So stuff that I have read, some of it's been bad, some of it's been good. And what I want to do is try and investigate it as a positive, opportunity for the art market to develop in a way that is good for artists and community and, creativity in general.
With a thesis, do you need to pick something a bit more pinpointed and specific, or can you talk broad? I feel like it's so broad that you would have to almost write 500 theses in one.
For sure.
On different aspects of it.
For sure.
No, you go. Yeah.
No, for sure. I'm going to have to get more clear on what I actually want to focus on. At the moment, I'm just sending in it's my application to the university, and I need to put a kind of study plan with an idea, but that can change, as I meet my course director and as, whatever they think needs, and NFT will change, between now and 5 months, things are going to change. So, I've got a few friends out here who are studying in the same department, and, they're doing their PhDs and things, and they were actually kind of just telling me to be careful in studying NFTs just because of the amount of change, in that I could spend a year researching this and then somebody else releases a paper which is exactly what I've been researching, and then my research is all invalid, right?
Very true, isn't it?
Yeah, because or something changes which just writes all of my research as null, and it's risky, but I don't know. I'm into it at the minute, and
that's a very true point. It's a very, very, very true point. I think then if you almost, that's very true. I guess what your idea of comparing it to the traditional art market then is a kind of a good idea, because that can't, in terms of the traditional art market of the past, it's already the past. That can't change. So that's, at least that part of your research can't be null. Whereas, obviously, I mean, even comparing it from now to the past would make it kind of more future-proof, if you can compare it to what the NFT state is right now, what it's been like for the last few years, and then what that's effect of it. So it's almost like a history of NFTs up from now.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I want to do is to kind of research because I'm still catching up. I mean, I haven't been around since the beginning, so I'm just getting in the middle of it, and I want to research that myself anyway. I want to seriously think about how I'm going to be involved in it, and I want to provide some kind of guide to other artists and figure it out myself, how is the most effective way to get into this. And to be honest, I haven't been at university for years. I've been traveling and doing all kinds of stuff, and this is a new thing, going back to studying for me, so I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work out, but I am keen to get in there and talk to the professors and the people who have an idea of what they think might be worthwhile studying. I mean, the people that I've talked to had said they think it would be an interesting thing to study, but just be careful about
So here's a few maybe extra ideas as well. How could you almost make, okay, so amazing that you want to study. I'm the same. I've been studying 7 years. I've been away from university 7 years, I think. And I remember essays, whilst I did enjoy them, I found them a lot of, I just wanted to play, at the time I just wanted to play music. I didn't really want to write essays.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I probably could sit down and write some things down. I feel like I'm better talking. Anyway, back to my point. You're right in the sense that people are going to start putting out these studies and theses. Is that the right word?
I think it must be, I don't know. Thesis, yeah.
And right, people are going to be putting out options, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't. I think a lot of people are actually focused on the NFT world itself rather than the academics behind it. If there's only a certain amount, 500,000 people involved in this community, a very small amount is going to be academically researching it. So there will still be a lot, but a small amount. Here's an idea though. What if you could actually make this thesis into an NFT?
I have thought of this, yes, and I did discuss this, and to release the thesis as an NFT and say this is a thesis about NFTs, and it's a good idea,
You could almost. There's a few things that you could. I could just get ideas out and
I'm writing stuff down. I'm typing. Yeah.
You could. How many pages is it going to be? Let's say, is it 10,000 words? I don't know.
It depends. It depends on what kind of format you take as well, because I have the option to do it as completely written, or I can do it as a kind of practical presentation piece where I create art and then present that and talk about it as well. So it depends,
That's very cool. The art and presentation one works well because I find that's kind of easier in the sense that you can create art and do it.
Yeah.
Although the completely written one, you could be, as your angle, it's not done yet, the first NFT thesis collection, where you could release one paragraph as an NFT and then release the whole thesis as an NFT split up into, let's say, I don't know how many paragraphs you do, 200 paragraphs, 1,000 paragraphs. Let's say you had 1,000 paragraphs. That's your 1,000-piece collection NFT. And then you could then potentially sell, and then, you know, it could be hopefully on a, if you're only going to sell it for $10, let's say, I don't even know how price points, you could sell it for whatever, but you could say this is a thesis about this, and then you can release the paragraph as an NFT, which they get, but when they actually buy one, they get the whole thesis as a download, as an unlockable download. They can read it. Kind of like a Google Scholar situation where they spend $5 to get the thesis.
Yeah.
It would be interesting because what's interesting about that is, first of all, you have 1,000 available, right? If you were the first ever to do this, you'd be historic in future research of your actual study would be able to be quoted and referenced by future studies. And interestingly, for them to do that, they would have to buy the NFT.
Yeah, and it's a circle, and you know, and I, to be honest, I think the education system needs to change as well. And I'm, you know, in my heart, I'm a kind of revolutionary that wants to go out and change the world. But you know, I'm not saying that I'm the one to do it, but I think as long as people are starting to try these things will change. And that's great. That idea about, you know, paragraphs. My idea was just release it as an NFT, as a kind of an art piece in itself, and say, look, here's some research I've done. It's an NFT, but to unlock certain aspects that could be tied to that,
But yeah, because when you think of it long term, you could be like, okay, in 3 years' time, there's going to be people studying it. If this carries on going away, of course, if it goes like the predicted scale it's going to be, in a few years' time, this is going to be what people are talking about in university, in so many different industries.
Yeah.
And this could be an interesting thing for people. People could actually reference your thesis. They go, well, this person actually released their thesis as an NFT and did this with the collection.
Yeah.
And it would be so interesting.
Yeah.
And then they could reference the quotes.
Yeah. Well, the institute that I'm going into is the Institute of Creative and Industrial Design, right? And they've got different sections. They've got one for like digital creations. They've got one, you know, which would be like coding and software development and things like that. They've got one for kind of curation of museums and things. But the one that I'm potentially going to be in is the branding and marketing one, because that's the one that allows you to do a kind of art-based, you know, like how to brand and market art, right? Because that's something I'm not clued in about really, and something I want to learn about. And it also lets me not just be writing all the time. I get to make art as well as do the research thing. So the brand and marketing side of it could be really, you know, the topic could be how to brand and market NFTs, you know, and maybe from an independent point of view, like not from a big company point of view, but as individual artists, how to brand and market these NFTs. And, you know, I spend a year or whatever, 2 years trying to market a thesis, whatever.
Exactly that, yeah. That in itself, the thesis, in making the thesis an NFT in itself, which are then marketing this thesis in itself by marketing, just makes it a really cool, weird concept. It's just unique anyway, and people love that.
Yeah.
In terms of like studying marketing, so I find marketing a really interesting thing. I've studied parts of it myself, not at like a university, just kind of, I've done a lot of online marketing to learn and obviously be a musician and it's useful.
Mm-hmm.
What I like and I don't like about marketing is that I like that I feel marketing is always has to be current. So, you know, you can't really pick up marketing books from 15 years ago and use them in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of traditional, in terms of traditional marketing techniques and sales funnels and this and that, which still do apply.
Mm-hmm.
So there's learning those. But in terms of a lot of the actual marketing, like 20 years ago, like there's no social media. Like,
Mm-hmm.
But what I mean is, even 10 years ago, books for marketing 10 years ago, you know, when you might be saying MySpace and Vine and all these social media platforms aren't even around anymore, really.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is going to be the biggest challenge in NFT marketing and researching is that, I mean, at the moment, you know, you can't even market properly on Twitter. Twitter doesn't even allow you, and Facebook, they literally don't allow you properly to market your NFT as a promoted post because it's financial. So I tried to initially use a promoted post and it was blocked and barred straight away. I have now since seen a few, but they're a bit more sneakier than mine. So it's going to be a very quick changing world. NFT and marketing is going to be so quick.
Yeah.
There's also a difference between using NFTs to market your work as in using NFTs to market your company is a different question from marketing your NFTs.
Yeah, that's true.
And like Adidas and you know, all the companies that I've got in recently are essentially, they are the company and they're using NFTs to market their company. They're not, and in turn they're using their company to market their NFTs. But that is a big difference doing that than.
Well, that's it. That's the two angles of coming at it from an artist and coming at it from a business or a company, right? A corporate thing. And, you know, I'll probably have to look at both sides of it. And I've got a bit of time now to keep researching things and get my head around everything. So, but I mean, it's great to have all these ideas, and it is an interesting thing to be thinking about for me as well. You know, like I was thinking about doing a branding and marketing thesis on our carpentry workshop here and how to start like a, you know, maker space and, you know, that kind of thing. And that's really cool. And we are trying to do that as well here. But I don't, you know, there's part of me that just loves the future and loves what is possible. And, you know, this to me is the most current thing at the minute. I'm into. So yeah,
you're similar to me in that you are creative and you have a lot of aspects to your creativity. You're a musician, you're an artist, you're good at woodworking, you're a teacher, you're into technology, you're an academic. So all of these things, you could spend a long time in that individual aspect of your creativity. I actually think that doing multiple things, again, gives you more of a, makes you more interesting. And when you go to something, when you go to buy an art, and you realize that they're also an incredible, they've written a novel, or they've done this, or they've done that, you go, oh wow, this guy's pretty, or girl's pretty creative. So I guess using the aspects that you've already done, like you've already put in the hard work of learning a musical instrument for years. You've already put in the hard work of being a good artist or a good woodworker. You now are just need to figure out ways that you can transfer those skills that you've spent years and years developing, put onto the blockchain and as an NFT. Yeah. And then I think linking those together and kind of making you yourself as a brand can kind of, is it one idea how you can market yourself?
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And going back to the thing you were saying about songwriters before, getting lost nowadays, and part of that is because it's a brand, right? It's people are following this song not because of the song in itself anymore. It's because of the pop star or the, you know, it's the marketing that goes behind that. And you know, Ed Sheeran has good songs, he's a good songwriter, but there are a lot of
pop stars who don't write their own songs, and they're getting all the credit for this music that they're not even even involved with the songwriting at all. So
I think that's interesting. That's another aspect. It's an extremely good point, and it would almost if you went out into the street and asked 100 people, we picked the top 10 artists of today, and anyone who doesn't write their own song, obviously everyone writes their own songs, and some of the amazing ones do write their own songs. But if you picked 10 of them that don't write their own song, and you went to 100 people and said, just name the songwriter, any of those people, how many people do you reckon could answer that question? I reckon it would be very slim. I mean, I work in the music industry, and I probably couldn't name a lot of them.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show how kind of lost it really is. So unless you're in the songwriting kind of industry, researching and going out, make an active effort to find out who's been writing these songs, you probably don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much your point. But if you were able to kind of harness this NFT music where the songwriter automatically gets sent the royalties, their share of the royalties, it would probably be more publicly available, that knowledge. I guess it would just kind of be seen. I don't know. It's just a thought, but maybe you buy that and you could click on the NFT and see where the royalties went, and you could do a little very quick paper trail, and it clicks you to this person. You can kind of see, they're getting royalties from this track, this track, this track. It could be a really interesting concept if you could click on a songwriter and it actually links to all the songs that they've written very easily.
Yeah.
It could be kind of using NFTs to prove that you are the songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
Be an interesting concept.
There's definitely an aspect about songwriters which is interesting, but my point was more from the opposite side of what we were talking about, the branding of the personality and the person, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what goes on behind, because what people are interested in now is, this guy does this and he's so interesting, or whatever this. And it's interesting to know the stories of people. That's one thing that will never change, is people's stories. So it's something I've been thinking about recently as well.
It's true. You're right. You're very right. It does. That's what people are interested in. They are into the mega pop stars and mega famous things, but maybe that's a cultural thing. Like for me, if I find someone and I realize that they've done a lot of things, and even if they're not, in fact, sometimes it's more impressive. If I find, for example, and I've found it a few times where I'll go watch a gig and I'll really like the bass player. I'm always taking a look at the bass player, and if they're at kind of a good level, sometimes if I find out who they are, I'll do a little bit of research just to see if they've been in. Sometimes, I found session players particularly I like, because in the same sense of a songwriter, they can be very under the radar. Unless you're in that session world, most of the time, people don't know that they're a session player. But when I find them and I click on them and they're they've played for this artist and they've played for this artist and they've played for this artist, but they have 1,000 followers on Twitter, but they're playing for mega stars. You're like, wow, this is just crazy. I find I think those people could be the new celebrities if it was all linked to the blockchain.
Oh man, I would love it. I've always been this kind of introvert, kind of working away under the radar, playing music and having visuals on in the background, and I totally relate to that world of the songwriter or the unsung hero. I'm not saying I'm brilliant and I've done anything brilliant, but I think there's a lot of people doing really cool stuff and they're not shouting about it, and I think in some ways it's a lot easier for that kind of person to share it online and to share it digitally, and for me anyway, it's a lot easier to make it. I'm making
animations and music videos at the minute. It's easier for me to share that online than to organize a gig. And I do play gigs and I do things like that, but it's just so much easier to share it with people in a digital way. And we've had Facebook and Instagram and things to share it before, but it's just there's no way of generating income. So it's nice that is potentially something that could change in the future.
Like, for example, if you're a producer and find a musician for your track, usually you'll work with people that you know and the friends and like people that are in your area that are good. But a lot of things are being done virtually now, and so it's getting more and more easier to work with and collaborate with people worldwide.
Yeah, well, that's another thing I was thinking about is like collaborations. Like I've seen that you've done a few collaborations in the past, and like how do you see collaborations in the NFT space, and how do you find them? How do you go about getting involved in it, and what's the benefits of collaborating?
It's actually my favorite thing to do right now. I love collaborations, and I think it benefits everyone. And it was some advice given me. So when I started and things were happening, and some good things were happening to my artwork and selling, and I was just chatting to everyone, learning more, learning. And a piece of advice that kept coming up was collaborate. And I asked why, and so some of these answers are things that I found personally, and some of them are advices that people give. Collaborations are great because in terms of as an artist, I'm doing everything myself, marketing everything. And I've managed to get 2,000 followers. That's amazing. Great. If I can collaborate with another artist, it benefits everyone because maybe some of my followers will then find this artist that they've never found before, and vice versa. You're kind of sharing the fans, let's say, right?
Yeah,
which is great. Some people aren't kind of a fan of that because they feel like this is the wrong way to view it, in my opinion. But some people don't like building other people up because they think, the collectors are going to buy their work instead of my work. I don't view it like that. I don't like that view. I think let's build everyone up. Let's just bring everyone with us, right? Mm-hmm. But first of all, I like creating interesting art, and just like we're doing now, we're sitting and we're talking, and new ideas come from these collaborations. This is a collaboration right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So I find that just discussing with people and making new art and talking to them, and you kind of, once you've collaborated with someone, there is a little bit of a bond that you have with them. Like with the artists that I've collaborated, despite whether it's sold or not, I have a little bond with them where I will help them, I will retweet them, and if they put out a piece, I'll retweet them. And I've personally found as well, when I put out a piece, a lot of the people I've collaborated with are very supportive and they'll share my work. Mm-hmm. And you're creating mini little bonds with other artists.
Yeah.
Which I find amazing. And also when you create the piece, people are who are collector are getting a bit of a 2-for-1 deal. Mm-hmm. They're getting an awesome piece of artwork. It's got your stamp on it if they like your work, but it's also got the other art. Maybe they like the other artist's work and not found your work, and they'll buy it because they like the other person's art. So it's kind of like, in some sense, doubling your collector base. That piece. Yeah. That's why I think it's good. I've had a few. I will tell you, my first ever collaboration was amazing, and it was a guy called Doug Tenaple, is how I pronounce his name. He's the creator of Etherium Gym and a game called Neverhood, Cat Scratch from Nickelodeon, and so many things. And I found his NFTs because I was scrolling around the NFT world, and I think I was even on OpenSea, and it popped up, and it was a character from the Neverhood, which is a game I played, one of my first ever PC games. I honestly feel like it was maybe 25 years ago. I played this game. Whenever it first came out. And it was a game called the Neverhood, and there was this clay animation game, and it was amazing. It was a puzzle game. It was when I didn't have internet, so you couldn't, and it was so hard for me at that age. You couldn't figure out the game. I remember playing it for hours and hours. I lived on the game, and it was so challenging. And anyway, when I saw that NFT, because that game, I felt not many of my friends knew about it. I'm sure it was a massive game, but it instantly brought me back to nostalgia. I was like, it was my first, I was looking to buy something, and I saw that, and I went, boom, that's the one. So, bought it. He was kind of starting up that collection fairly soon, so I managed to get into that community quite early. It was my first community, really, that I chatted to. I bought a piece and I chatted. And he was there in the community chatting to everyone. And I got chatting to him, and one day I kind of nervously, but I just messaged and said, would you ever be interested in doing a collaboration? And he said, yeah, absolutely. He was so warm and welcoming, and it was clear that I liked his work because I had bought a piece of the work. And at the time, all public, he was like, "Are you cool just to do this exposure?" And I was like, "Great." I mean, usually as a musician, I'd be like, "No way." But this wasn't this. This was I was asking to be a part of his collaboration. I was a lesser known artist than him. It was kind of so I was okay. So we private messaged each other. I sent him some artwork. He was so lovely and supportive, and he created a piece. He put it on his collection. It sold within an hour, or maybe just a little after for one ETH. So it was a lot of money.
Yeah. Wow.
Then he gave me 95% of it.
Wow. Amazing.
And he didn't need to do that. And I don't know if he publicly said he did that. I don't think he did. But he gave me 0.95 or 9 ETH, something like that.
Amazing.
I think he kept a little bit just for maybe something. It was very, 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 very minimal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he didn't need to do that. So publicly, he said it was for exposure, but privately, he actually gave me pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
That's amazing. So that was such a crazy, amazing experience. And he's a big artist. And for me, I was then to be able to go from then and talk to other artists and say, look, I've just done a collaboration with this guy. What do you think? I was then, the biggest thing wasn't really, I mean, it was amazing that he gave me that, the Etherium, but it was actually then to be able to go, it gave me the confidence to go out to other artists, be a bit ballsy and just be like, not rude or creepy or pushy, but if I like their work and we were talking to them and we had a bit of a connection, and I was just saying, I would sometimes just go, look, if you're ever interested, this is my work. This is a collaboration I've recently done. I really love your work. If you're ever interested in the future to do a collaboration with me, let me know. Mm-hmm. And I've done a few now, and it's just been like that. Usually it's me. And, hopefully, if my art sells more and I get bigger, I can do the same as Doug did.
Yeah.
Which was to do the same thing, do a collaboration and give them all those things. Yeah, so basically with the why I think it's a good idea is because I believe then a couple of the community members in here actually checked out my work, and some of them even bought some. He had a much bigger community than me. I was kind of the small guy coming into a big community. Mm-hmm. Those are harder to get into than the opposite way around, but they're possible. Mm-hmm. And I kind of felt like a lot of the time the underdog coming in asking the big boys for a hand, but there are plenty of people that be like, we make great art, cool. Yeah. And that's one thing I like about it. Another thing I like about it is sometimes you can use art that you've already created, and when you're using it with their art, it becomes a new piece of art. So you can actually not double sell it, but you've done, for example, I had a piece of artwork I had minted, and I believe it sold. And I used part of that had taken a while to create, and I changed things, I edited it. It didn't take too long, I didn't have to start from scratch. But then that was used in a piece and a part of thing. I don't know if I'd done that before it sold. I don't know how it works. Anyway, I was able to use that, and because it didn't take me much time, I kind of just said to the guy, how about we do this? You take 50%, and I'll take 10% and we give 40% to charity. You choose charity with 40%. It didn't take me any time. They were selling it. It didn't really take me any time. So I was able to just give away a piece of art in a sense that had already benefited me over here. I was able to do good. If it's sold, then it's just money for charity and that guy gets to sell it. So there's loads of great things that can come from collaboration.
Yeah.
So many great things.
Yeah, no, it's something I would love to get into as well. And
we're going to do one.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
We're busy with everything, but we should definitely do one.
I think there's so much we could do together, and like you say, we've both got different kind of directions that we like to go in. So I'm sure we can come up with something interesting for us both to do.
We should try and combine. We could even try and combine everything that we both do into one thing.
Yeah.
On a music track together, which gets overlaid onto a piece of abstract animation art that you get from woodwork. I don't know.
you get a block of wood in the post whenever you buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
A piece of wood from my workshop. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, there's definitely potential there, and I'm keen to see where it goes. I think, man, you're great to talk to in a lot of ways. I've learned a lot, and I've just enjoyed chatting with you. I'm gonna have to run this time.
Don't worry, I've got some bits to do, and then I'm teaching later on today.
Yeah.
Oh, it's always great to chat, and just send over the recording, and just so I have it. It'll be interesting to look back at these conversations in a year's time or 2 years' time.
See where we got to.
And to see what happened, see if we were right, see if we were wrong. It'd be cool to look back and see what the music industry does in 1 year from now.
Yeah.
See what you're right or hasn't happened yet.
No, for sure. It's interesting to philosophize about these things, to talk about them, and to get ideas out there. And I think I think that you're good to talk to about it. And I don't know. Hopefully I give you some good things to think about, and I'm still catching up with you in terms of knowledge about this place, but I'm pretty involved in it at the minute in terms of in my head, trying to figure out where I want to be and what I want to do. So I'm keen to keep in contact for sure, and when we get the time, catch up for chats.
I mean, it's interesting that you're going to study marketing as well, because I find I have so many ideas, and I'm doing as many as I can, but I just don't have the following and marketing skills and marketing budget just to kind of, some of the ideas that I have would take, hundreds of thousands of people for it to work. It might even take a whole nation, like the music industry, to be fixed. I can tell you how I would like it to be fixed, but to actually do that is tricky. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's see how it goes.
I'll finish off with one quick story, very, 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 very quick, and then go around. I flew to London the other day, and I was on the tube, and the train, and I usually just listen to a podcast, and I think my ear fell out, and I heard three guys chatting, and they were chatting about jazz music, and they were chatting about incredible albums and everything. And I was instantly just hooked on their conversation. Now, I wasn't being weird and creepy, but it was just too interesting. So I just kind of sat there and just listened to what they were chatting about. And it was all about these amazing albums that I'd looked into, and some of them were really obscure, and I was like, wow, I really want to be in this conversation, but I was a bit shy and one of the guys got up and left, and I kind of smiled, and he smiled back. And then I kind of was a bit brave, and because it was a bit silent, I just kind of shouted. It was only us on the queue, and I was like, hey guys, I really like the conversation you were chatting about. It was really cool. I loved the bit when you said about this album, and then I was like thanks very much. I was kind of a bit nervous, and then they were like, they pretty much invited me over and said, let's have a chat, So I moved over and chatted to these strangers, and it was so interesting, just like the conversation. It was really great, and then it was probably only for 5-10 minutes because then I had to get off. And before I left, one of the guys said, know you're a musician and stuff, but I think he noticed some paint on my hands or something. Or he said, I can't remember how it actually worked, but the whole conversation goes, what else are you doing? And I was like, actually, I'm doing some NFT art as well. That's kind of becoming my main career at the moment. And he was like, oh, wow, I'm an artist. I've been looking into it and researching into it. I just don't know. And it's really confusing. And I'm like so confused. And I was in the crypto space since like 2016, but this NFT stuff's a bit interesting. And so I gave him my number. And he messaged me a few days later. And we had we had a Zoom call last week. Mm-hmm. We chatted for an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. About, he asked me questions, and it was like, it was just really nice and organic. It was like, that doesn't happen often when you chat to a random stranger and it works, and you become friends. If we keep chatting, he was a really nice guy, and I learned a lot about him, and I learned a lot about his art. So it was just that I basically onboarded him into the NFT space just because of a random conversation. So I like those things.
Yeah, that can happen, and I hope it happens more for you and for me, is where we meet more people that we connect with, and things grow, things keep growing. Yeah.
Right, man. I'll let you go.
Yeah, it's been great chatting, and we'll do it again sometime soon.
Later.
All right. See you, buddy.